Hi everyone, welcome to episode 38 of Friday Book Bites, and I am thrilled today to be joined by author Jodi Gibson. Hi Jodi, how are you today?
Hi Sandy, I'm well. How are you?
I am well. Now we're both in lockdown. You're down south and I'm up in Sydney, but we're going to have a great chat today about paths to publication and also your new novel. And speaking of which, we have a giveaway today for anybody who leaves a comment or asks a question, whether that's during the live stream today or up until midday Saturday, Sydney time. You will go into the running to win a copy of Jodi's fabulous new book, The 5-Year Plan. Now, we will talk about the 5-year plan as we go along, but before we do, we are talking today about the different ways to get to publication. And for anyone who doesn't know, there's like 1,000 different ways that people can be published these days. It's not like it was even 15 years ago. There's traditional publishing, self-publishing, assisted publishing, hybrid publishing, and probably a whole bunch of others that I maybe don't even know about. And I wanted to ask you, Jodi, what was your path to publication?
Yeah, sure. So when I first began writing, it was probably back in 2007. I just had my second child and was sort of looking for something to fill those days. I wasn't working, obviously, at the time. I'd always enjoyed reading and writing, and I had this idea in my head of writing a novel. So I took the idea and I just ran with it and I just wrote. So originally I wasn't writing towards publication. I was just writing as a bit of a hobby. So fast forward probably 5 or 6 years, I'd written maybe 3 manuscripts. All of them trash. Looking back on them now, you just cringe. And then it wasn't probably until maybe 2015 when I wrote what would become my first novel, The Memories We Hide. And I actually thought, hey, this isn't too bad. And so I worked with that and I did a masterclass with Fiona McIntosh. And she encouraged me that, this could be something that could be published if you keep working on it. So that was the idea that I thought, well, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe I can write something that is worthy of someone else reading it. So that's how the path to publication started. From there, I looked into the types of publication. I'd heard a lot about self-publishing or independent publishing. Obviously, didn't know much about that, or I didn't know much about traditional publishing and how it worked either. So I sort of looked into both of them. I did pitch The Memories We Hide to a couple of publishers, and they all requested the full manuscript, but that's as far as it went. It just wasn't for them, or the timing wasn't right, or there were other things on their books. And I basically got to a stage where I'd worked really hard on it. I'd been through lots of structural edits with it, paid for editing, and I looked more into independent publishing. What was that about? And basically I thought, I've got 2 choices here. I can just end this book and say, okay, it's not ready. They don't want it. I'll work on something else, or I can publish it myself. So that's when I decided to go down the indie publishing route for that novel.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question to that, but just before I do, there's quite a few hellos here from people. We've got Cassie saying hello. Hi, Cass. Thanks for joining us. Yvonne, one of my regulars. Hi, Yvonne. Nice to see you. Kelly is here, and I know Kelly has played a role in your journey. Chrissy is here. Lisa is here, another writer. Janet, who's one of my lovely regular viewers. Hi, Janet. Nice to see you again. Kim is here, and the regular has joined us from Western Australia. Thank you, Nola. And Victoria is here as well. Nice to see you too, Victoria. When you were weighing up whether to keep chasing traditional publishers or to go down your own path in independent publishing, what were the pros and cons that you had to weigh up for you?
Okay, so I guess what it came down to for me was probably impatience.
Yep.
Out there. So the con with traditional publishing was you pitch it out to a publisher or an agent, and basically you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs or writing the next book, which is what you should be doing. But you're still refreshing that inbox every, couple of hours or 5 minutes. So that was a con in, how long do I take that process? How long do I stick with that process? So that was a major con with traditional publishing. Obviously, the pros with traditional publishing are you get a lot more support from, the publishing industry, from people in the know, from editors, cover designers, and then, of course, the marketing and promo. They have the great reach for distribution. So all of those things are absolutely pros for traditional, whereas independent publishing, I guess the cons are you are the publisher, which means that you're wearing so many different hats. So you are organising the cover design, you are organising the editing, you do have to organise the distribution, and you are doing all of the promotion and marketing to get the book out there and get the word out there. I think the reason I decided on going indie for my first book was, as I said, I was impatient. I wanted to get it out there. And also I am a bit of a control freak. So, which is not always a bad thing. It's definitely something you need to be if you want to independently publish, because you do need to be in control of everything. So for me, that was a bit of a pro, because I could be in control of the whole process. Having said that, it's certainly not easy. There was a huge learning curve from when I first began to getting the book out there, and even beyond that. So, but for me, it just seemed like the right decision for that book at that time.
Now, Nola's asked a question regarding that, which I'll get to in a second. Janet's left a comment that says you would have to be brave to do that, but she understands the impatience and the control issues. Yeah, it is a brave thing to do it on your own. Now, I'll let you answer Nola's question first, and then I might add a little bit onto it depending on what your answer is. Do you feel like you'll reach as wide an audience with indie publishing regarding the marketing?
Probably not. It is really hard to get that reach out there, particularly when you don't have all the contacts that the publishers have. Obviously, they have contacts with media houses, with other booksellers, all of that. They have that reach, they have those contacts, and they can organise the publicity for a book in the initial stages. Obviously, that's only, it's usually, I think, the first month of the book, they'll help you out with that. And you're required to do it yourself as a trad published author as well. So, but there is less of a reach, and you do need to put more work into it, and you do need to put money behind it too. Things like Facebook advertising, Amazon advertising, and you need to be confident and brave enough to reach out to book reviewers, to put the book out on book review sites such as NetGalley, which, is a bit like walking into the firing line, really. You don't know what you're going to get back. So you definitely do get more reach, but I think as an indie, you can build that reach. So it might not take off and get as much reach as you would obviously like. You obviously are building an audience from there, which isn't really that different to a trad publisher. They just have that more initial reach, I think.
Yeah, and what I was going to follow it up with, and Janet is actually kind of jumping in here where I was about to go. She said, and you need Sandy's book bites. But on that, and this is, I think, a really important thing for any aspiring authors out there listening to this, and particularly the ones who decide to go down the indie publishing route, building that network of other writer friends is really important to help spread the word. And it's important for me as a traditionally published author, and it's important for you as an indie author. And it's something that you've done really well. You have fostered a wonderful relationship with a lot of the writing community. And I hope that you feel that the writing community is a really supportive space, and we get behind each other, and I think it's a really beautiful thing, and I think it's something you've done really, really well, Jodi.
I think it's really important, and not only because it's beneficial for yourself to make those contacts and get that support from a book perspective. It's also a great community just to be a part of for that personal support. You know, when you're writing and when you're putting yourself out there, when you're an author, you're putting your heart and soul into a book. You're taking time from your family, you're taking time from other commitments. So to have that, I guess, understanding of what that's like and be able to talk to other writers and other authors about that, that's really important from a personal perspective. But I always think, you know, what goes around comes around. I love reading, which means I love reading other authors. So making that connection and being able to help them out and sharing their books and reading their books is just something that I would do whether I was an author or not. So I think in both respects, it's really important. And you're absolutely right. The writing community in Australia is absolutely fantastic. It's so supportive. We get behind each other's books. We get behind each other personally, and it's just a lovely space. And I feel really privileged to be a part of that.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't know what I would do without, you know, the community that we're part of, and you know, we. Yeah, Jodi and I are part of a group that meets every Friday, and it's just such a lovely space. And there's all sorts of writers in there. There's established writers, new writers, traditionally published, indie, you know, people that are still working on their first chapter. It's a whole range of women that are in that group, and it's lovely. And Anna, who is from Anna's Shop in Cronulla, says she thinks it's wonderful that the writing community is there. And Kelly makes a really good point that it's important for our sanity as well to be connected to other writers. Yeah, because it's a funny old business to be in if you haven't got the support of people who understand what it's like. So
yes, yeah, and you do need that support because a lot of the time there's a lot of lows and not so many highs. So to be able to have that support behind you and then be able to celebrate those wins as well is really important for your sanity. Absolutely.
Yeah. Julie has dropped in with a comment regarding this networking that we do. And as a reader, it's great that I have these live chats to find out about other books and other authors that, you know, maybe we don't know about. And Tracy has said that she's found Australian authors very interactive with readers on social media. And that's another part of it too, isn't it? That whole marketing thing, connecting with our readers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about selling your book. It's about making that connection and talking with readers about what they're reading at the moment, what they're enjoying, gauging the market with them, just having that communication back and forwards with all sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily need to be about books or writing. I've made lots of connections with readers who follow me on Instagram or Facebook and are always commenting or sending me messages just on random things. And it's just such a lovely space. So I think, yeah, absolutely, the writing and reading community in Australia is fantastic. We're really lucky here. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but I'm glad we're here.
Possibly because it's such a small community. Maybe that's why it's so good. Now, there's a couple of other questions in here regarding your indie path. Nola has asked, is it really expensive to take the indie path?
Yes and no. It depends on how you approach it. Publishing with a view that I wanted a reader to go and grab my book off the shelf and be able to pick that up next to a traditionally published book and not be able to know that, oh, this one's self-published. So that just means that the quality needs to be up there. And to do that, you do need to pay for superior cover designers. You do need to pay for lots of editing to get things exactly right, for proofreaders and copy edits. So it does cost money to put it out there. It's certainly not something that you would do if you think, you know, you're going to get a lot of money back in return and make all that money back on your first book. It's not going to happen. So you do need to invest financially in what you're doing, just so that you put a book out there that readers just enjoy and don't pick it up and go, oh, it's indie published. Maybe it's second rate. Maybe they published it because they couldn't get it published anywhere else. You just want them to pick it up and enjoy the story and not have those sort of thoughts. You need to put a quality book out there, and that does cost money, like everything.
Yeah, and your book doesn't come out until next Tuesday, but I've been very lucky that I've had an advanced reading copy, which I finished last night. And yeah, you would not know that we put this next to a traditionally published book. and the quality of the product is exactly the same, which is fantastic. And Debbie's made a very valid point a little bit earlier on in the chat that everybody is different in the way to publish, and I think that's a really important mindset to maintain when you start writing. That there are these different avenues, and you've got to figure out which one is the right one for you. And there's no wrong or right way to do it. It's what suits you the best.
Yeah, and there's no wrong or right way, and there's no only one way. You might start off as a traditional published author, and then you might decide that that's not for you, or you wanted to go down the indie route. You might have some books published with a trad publisher and some books published by yourself. You could be hybrid in that sense. So there's not, okay, I'm traditionally published, that's the route for me for the rest of my author career. You can come and go, you can change your mind. So it's not a path that you choose and that it's set in concrete. And we're really lucky to have those options, I think.
Yeah. Now, Nola has also asked about your cover, and she wants to know, being an indie published author, do you have the last say on your cover compared to traditionally published, where we pretty much don't get a say at all?
Yes, absolutely. You get 100% say on your cover. Basically, you have an idea. You need to do lots of research so that you make sure that the cover for your book fits the genre. So obviously my plan is a lighthearted feel-good read, so I'm not going to have a dark cover that looks like a crime novel. It has to suit the genre. So you need to do lots of research into that. And then when you send off that brief to your cover designer, they'll come back with some options and they'll work with you, and they're experienced in book cover design, so they know what works and what doesn't work. So you'll be guided by them, but ultimately you do have the final say. With the 5-year plan, that's hybrid published. So I am signed with Brio Books / Booktopia for that. But I did already have the cover. So I brought the cover to them and said, I've got this cover. What do you think of it, guys? And fortunately enough, they loved it. So that was great. There was just a few tweaks here and there that we agreed on. But apart from that, but yeah, as I've heard with trad publishing, you don't really get much of a say unless you're maybe one of those big names.
Even then, I'm not sure how much of a say they get. Penelope has left a comment that she loves your cover, and there's quite a few comments coming through, which is fantastic. We love that here on Book Bites. Tracy Anderson has pre-ordered your book, and she's looking forward to it arriving. I'm just going to scroll through because I've got to catch up now. Cassie has a question for you. She's interested to know which part of the publishing process you find the most challenging, and how do you confront that challenge?
I think it depends on which part of the process I'm in at the time as to whether it's challenging me or not. Definitely the editing is the most challenging part during the writing process. When it comes to publishing, I think the most challenging part is when your book's out in the world and readers are responding to it, and you're getting reviews in, and some people are loving it, some people are maybe not liking it. And I find that really challenging because I love the book so much and I just want everyone to love it. But I'm also a realist and know that, you know, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But dealing with that feedback and those nerves and that self-doubt once the book's out in the world, that, oh, it's not good enough, it wasn't ready, I could have done this better, I should have done that better, I should have edited this scene, I could have done this. Like, there's all of those self-doubt things that hit me like right about this time, right when it's just about to come out. So I find that really challenging, and how I deal with that is not very well. To be honest, you know, just one day at a time. If you get a bad review in, I go back and I read a good review and say, okay, it wasn't that person's cup of tea, but this person loved it. So, and I think that's all you can do.
Oh dear, I'm so similar to you. The bit that I'm in at that current time is the bit that I hate the most, and then when I'm out of it, that's the bit I want to go back to. So. Always
the way.
Yeah, if I'm writing, I'd rather be editing. If I'm editing, I'd rather be writing. If I'm promoting, it's tricky. Now, Janet's left a comment. My goodness, from now on, I will think of all the other implications and decisions. What was that? An author has to make, and she had no idea it was so complicated. She appreciates authors even more. And that's one of the things that, readers go into the shop or online and they grab the book and it's a beautiful finished product and it's lovely. And we were talking this morning in the writers group about what the readers don't see in what gets us to that point. And there's a lot that the reader doesn't see.
Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know, pretty much. You know, you don't know what goes into it until you actually know that. So,
Nola, you couldn't be further from the truth. No, it couldn't be closer to the truth. What is it about the self-doubt that writers have? It seems to be part of the writer's lot. Yep, every single one of us. And it doesn't matter how successful you are.
No, when you see authors, sorry, Sandy, when you see authors like Leanne Marty say, that, they're worried about their book, well, then that makes you feel a little bit better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've seen Candace Fox do the same thing, when she puts a new book out into the world and she's worried about how it will be received. You're like, dude, you're Candace Fox. Like,
yeah, exactly right.
Actually, though, on a serious note, Nola, I think it's a good thing that we have that self-doubt because it means we want it to be the best it can be, and it means that we want to put out a quality product. And I think if we ever lost that, we should probably stop writing.
Very true.
Yeah. Chrissy has a question for you. Do you write what you like to read, or do you have a secret desire to write in a different genre? Ooh, I love secret desires, Chrissy.
I love to read lots of different things. I guess my favorite genre is women's fiction. I love to read romance. I love historicals. I love crime. I love psychological thrillers. They're probably my main, all of those lot. I'll read within those genres usually. I'm not, sci-fi and fantasy don't always grab me. If I can have a recommendation of a book and give it a go, I might enjoy it. But they're probably my favorite genres that I read most often. And I do have a secret. I would love to write a psychological thriller one day. No space.
We will keep our eyes open for that one. Kelly, who is another writer and a writing coach, has left the comment that creative people all have self-doubt. And I think you'd find that with musicians, artists, anything in the creative field. Lisa has a question, and Lisa's actually preempted one of my questions, which is fantastic. Congratulations on the new release. How did the Booktopia deal come about, and what has it been like going from full indie to hybrid?
Great question. So with the 5-year plan, I had set out to self-publish it again. And I did pitch it out again last year, and again got a request for the full manuscript, and they said it wasn't just quite right for them. So I thought, okay, I've tried that. I'll go indie. I know what to do. I know how to do it. I'm comfortable doing that. And I did a seminar or an online workshop with the ASA, the Australian Society of Authors, late last year. And it was on self-publishing and distribution, which is one of the big challenges for a self-published author, is getting their books out there. So that's why I did that. And during that, there were a few questions I had that we didn't get time to ask during the session. So I actually emailed one of the guys and asked them some questions, and we had an email exchange back and forth. And then he said, I'm associated with Brio Books. We'd love to have a look at your manuscript. And I said, okay. So it was just a case of that reaching out and, asking some questions and connecting with someone that came about. And from there, they wanted to take on the manuscript. And then I thought, that's great. Okay, let's talk. And then Christmas happened and I hadn't heard anything. I thought, okay, well, that's dead in the water. Not going to happen. Kept going down the indie path. And then I think it was around about February that I got a call saying, we do want to take it on. We're actually merging or going in partnership with Booktopia. So it will be through Booktopia and Brio Books. And yeah, it all came together from there. So it was just that point of making contact with someone and making those connections that this deal came about. And I'm enjoying it. The Brio books have the print rights, so the actual hard copy of the book, and I'm still retaining the ebook rights. So it's definitely a hybrid deal in that sense. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. They've been great to deal with.
That's fantastic. And I'm so pleased. And I'm so pleased that through Booktopia it will garner a little, a greater audience than perhaps it would have, because it's such a great book. And we really need to talk about it, about the actual book as well. As I said, I was lucky enough to receive a copy. I finished it last night. And it's a feel-good foodie travel romp through Melbourne and Italy. And I think just what we need at this point in time, with so many of us stuck at home and in lockdown and feeling a bit dragged down by everything. You said that in your comments in the back of the book that it was a bit of a wrangle to get it out there, but you felt that we needed a feel-good story, and you couldn't be further. You couldn't have said that any better. Is that what spurred you on when you were struggling with it a bit, that you really needed to get that feel-good story out there?
I think so. I think, we all know what the last 18 months, 2 years has been like. And so when I was finding those challenges with the book, I thought, people really need a book like this. I really need a book like this. I'd found that when I was reading, I was looking for books like that, because you just want to escape what's going on in the world. I don't want to be reading anything too dark, too heavy. And if you are, then you want to change that up with something lighter. So it definitely spurred me on. I think it's a great story. It makes me smile. The characters make me smile. That armchair travel, that you can go to Italy without going to Italy, because we can't at the moment. I think we really need that, for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, and I have travelled in earlier days, obviously, through Italy, and I really did feel like I was there, which was nice. There's also a very heavy food influence on this book, and I will warn everybody who's thinking about grabbing the 5-year plan, which you should do. Don't read it while you're hungry, because the food that is throughout this novel and described so beautifully will make your mouth water. Are you a big foodie, Jodi?
I am a big foodie. I love all sorts of food. I particularly love Italian food. I grew up with a lot of Italians, so I was surrounded by those big family meals of just, layers and layers of food. So absolutely, I love baking. I love creating recipes. I think food creates just an atmosphere of family and friendship, and it brings people together. So if I'm able to inspire people and to make people hungry while they're reading, my goal has been achieved.
Well, Trace is looking forward to it because she loves food books. And Joe, oops, I pressed the wrong one there. Italy does sound great though. I've lost, there we go. Joe Burke's comment. Can we talk about Jodi's recipes too? So you're obviously a cook as well, Jodi.
I am. I do a little bit of baking. I like to say I like books and baking. I have a YouTube channel, which I probably don't use, but I have lots of recipes that I like to share on my website and on Instagram. Mainly cakes, mainly sweet things, because they make you feel good, don't they? And I will actually have a few recipes from the book that I'll be popping on my website and on the Instagram, and hopefully up on YouTube in the next couple of weeks to share those recipes from the books, because they're really yummy.
Excellent. Jo said she made your truffles with her girls last weekend and did a second batch and swapped the plain bickies for Oreos. Oh, that sounds all right. I'm down with that.
Love it.
And Janet's left the comment, yeah, of course, if it's Melbourne and Italy's cuisine. Yeah. Cassie wants to know, what's your favourite thing to make?
My favourite thing to make is cakes. I love cakes. How can you not love a cake?
Preaching to the choir, baby. Preaching to the choir. Oh dear, and I think we're making Pen's mouth water as well. Now, I'm just conscious of the time here, so I want to get in a question about Demi, our main character. Demi is of Italian heritage, and she's going through I'm not going to say midlife crisis, it's an early life crisis, I guess, because she's a bit younger than I am. But she's struggling to find that balance between her family expectations, what she feels she wants out of life, and what deep down is inside her heart. And I wanted to ask you, Jodi, what is it do you think, and I think particularly for women, is it so hard for us to balance all of those expectations with what's truly going on inside our heart?
I think basically we just want to keep people happy.
Yeah.
We don't want to have any sort of conflict. We just want everyone to get along. We want to keep ourselves happy, but at the same time keep everyone else happy. And I think the one thing that Demi comes to realize is that if she's happy, the people around her who are the most important to her will be happy too. But it takes her a journey to, I hate that word, but it takes her going through the events of this book to realize that, and to realize that she needs to follow her heart, and then, you know, things fall into place.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. There's a quote towards the end of the book, and there's no spoilers in this for anyone, that says, "The best plans are the ones you didn't make." And I love that quote.
Haven't we all been there? Haven't we all had our life plan or our 5-year plan and gone, I want to do this, this, and this, and then things get thrown up, and then you get to the end and you realize, you know, I should not have tried to plan my life out, because as I said, the best plans are the ones you don't make, the things that happen. Even on a smaller scale, if you're planning a night out, usually the best nights out are the ones that just happen on the spur of the moment. So it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Tracy's loving that quote as well, and Joe is agreeing with us. And Nola is agreeing that, yeah, we always want to keep everybody happy as women. You know, it's not a bad thing, but as long as you can recognise that, yeah, as you said, if you're happy, the people around you will be. So I'm going to pop up the details of where you can find Jodi online. If you've got any last questions for Jodi, pop them into the chat box now. So this is where you can find Jodi, and that's the cover of her other book, The Memories We Hide and the 5-Year Plan. Jodi, what is next for you?
I am currently working on another feel-good fiction, which hopefully will be my 3rd published novel, and hopefully that'll be out later next year. And I'm also, as I mentioned before, trying to work on an idea for a psychological thriller, but that might be a little while off. So I'm sticking with the feel-good fiction because it makes me feel good to write it and to read it.
Absolutely. And I was certainly feeling good as I read it, and I said, you know, stuck in lockdown as I am right now, it really did hit just that right sweet spot of just happiness and joy. And congratulations, Jodi. It's fantastic.
Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
Alrighty, guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much, Jodi, for joining us. Now, if anybody does have any other questions that they're dying to ask, pop them into the comments on Facebook, and we can pop back in over the weekend and answer those for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jodi. Everybody take care out there and stay safe.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, everyone.